So, welcome back to obviously Fight Talk, and I'm delighted to say we are now joined by Stormin Norman Parke. This man has a professional record of 21 wins with just 5 defeats and 1 draw. He's making his ACB debut on the 1st of October versus Andrew Fisher. So, Norman, welcome along to obviously Fight Talk, and thank you so much for coming on Fight Week.
How's it going, guys? He's alright. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, delighted to have you on here. So we were joined by a couple of fighters already with Saul Rogers and John Maguire. So we're making it a hat-trick, and we're bringing the Irish boy on to wrap it up. So just making the ACB debut against Andrew Fisher. So Norman, just tell us a little bit. What do you know about your opponent?
I know Andrew quite well, actually. We were due to fight back in 2009, I believe it was, roughly around that time, on the old Strike and Submit show. I'm not too sure if you guys would remember that, but I competed on there in Newcastle, Strike and Submit, and then I was offered to fight Andrew after that, my next fight. And then if I'd have beat him, I'd have got the shot at Martin Stapleton for the title at that time. But 1 week from the fight, Andrew got injured, and I had to fight somewhere else in a different show. I think it was Galway against Ben Davis. So that fight fell through, and so here we are, how many years later? 8 years later? And we're going to get it on. So he's a tough challenge ever. You know, he's a veteran. He's been in some big fights. He's fought some strong lads, and you know, he's tasted the game at the highest level. You know, he was at Bellator, had a few fights there. You know, lost by decision. So he's tough, and he can stay in there. But you know, I believe I've got the capabilities to beat him.
And is this the type of fight you're looking for, Norman? Coming off, obviously, away from the UFC, you're obviously looking to get back in there. You're only young, you've plenty of time ahead of you. But is this the type of opponent that you want, a high-caliber opponent to show that you are top of the game, you are one of the best in the world, and you should be on the main stage?
You know, I feel this is a great matchup in the way that, you know, I'm not facing a really, really strong wrestler or anything like that, so I can kind of dictate where I want to take the fight. You know, we can keep it standing. You know, there's no worry really there about takedowns as such. You know, and you know, I feel like it's a reasonable matchup for me. You know, he's been around, he's fought some good lads, and you know, we just got to go in there and get the job done. So I'm looking forward to that.
And you haven't fought in about 7 months or so. Were you happy with the time off, or are you itching to go back in there?
I would actually have been back quicker, but it was I had a wild serious knee injury after the fight with Kabalov, and that put me out for about 4 months. I couldn't really do anything for about 3-4 months, and I was on holiday, and the knee felt like it was fine. I was training, and then I tweaked it again, so that set me back another month or so. So I would really have been back about a month earlier, but saying that, you know, I'm still getting a fight. I've got a couple of fights lined up here, and I hope to have a few more by the end of the year also. So I'm going to stay pretty active, and we'll see how things go by the end of the year.
And then looking at your gym there as well, Norman, now the next gen there, you can see the young lions, if you like, of the gym there, and Reese McKee and Alan Philpott having huge success on the Bama stage. You know, you were always seen as the front runner in next gen there. Again, that's no disrespect, and you know, you were fighting on the UFC, you were the main name out of there. But the likes of seeing Alan certainly mature over the years, and now Reese as well stepping up and is now 4-0 as a pro. Does this drive you on as well, seeing the success coming out of the gym?
Yeah, you know, I knew that was going to come anyway, because, you know, I trained with them lads, you know, since they were young pups. You know, I know they're still young pups, but I mean, they were 15 years of age, and now they're 19, 20 odd. So I'd seen them grow into the fighters that they are today, and you know, I'm sure they'll be making more big waves as the next year comes on. So it's great to see the young lads get their chance, you know, and you know, professional. I mean, if I was to go back and fight them lads when I was that, you know, at the level they're at now, I would get completely smashed. So it shows how much the game has advanced. And I mean, when I was in America training, you know, whatever I learned, I brought back and showed them boys as much as I could, you know, especially in the grappling and the wrestling department. You know, I feel that's one of the gaps and over here. So I mean, you don't need to be a great wrestler to be a great MMA wrestler. So if you can get that fine balance, you can be very dangerous, especially if you got like good striking. because Ireland and Northern Ireland's known for people with great strike and mostly boxers. So it was great to give some advice, and it's just great to see them slowly get their chance. But I'm looking forward to their next fights.
I did see that you mentioned in one of your interviews you were speaking that you were going to go to Thailand for a training camp. Did that happen? Did you go over to Thailand to train over there?
No, I was going to go, but then things just kind of changed. I was going to go there because it was the lad I was meant to fight. It never happened, so it just says fuck it. I'll just stay here. I got enough here to I actually went back training judo, and I did a lot more wrestling for this fight. I did some sparring with some good boxers here also, so I've been kind of just working on my wrestling. I felt like I kind of neglected that whenever I was near the end of the UFC career there. It was the fight with Kabalov. I wish I had did a little bit more wrestling, especially I kind of underestimated how good his control actually was, so that was a mistake on my half. So this fight here, I went back to the way I was, back to my old roots, judo and wrestling, and I feel like that's enough to get the job done for this fight.
And again, like just to bring it back to bring up a sore point, I suppose, in a way, the controversial losses to Gleison Tebow and Ronaldo there. I seen you tweeted about Ronaldo today, basically saying he's on a 7-fight win streak, and he knows you won that fight. He knows it, we know it, and everybody who watched the fight knows that you won that fight, and you got robbed like many a person has in Brazil. But do you feel from them defeats that you may have learned? The judges, certainly don't write down the right scores. Do you feel like you have to get these fights finished rather than leaving it in the judges' hands?
Yeah, but I think that's it. You got to close the show. Me coming in before the UFC. People can say all they want, they can say all they want on the social media that I never finish fights, but I'm fighting strong fighters. These guys are the lads who I fought in the UFC. Look at their records. Have they ever been finished much? Hardly ever. Gleison Tebow's hardly ever been finished. Who else? Rustam Kabalov has hardly ever been finished. And these are big, strong. Reza Madari has never been finished. These are big, strong powerhouses. Every one of them are strong lads. So it's tough when you're getting in there, especially when you're fighting at that level. So I feel like time away and get some good stoppages on my record, and maybe I'll get back to where I am. But for the meantime, I'm just focusing on this fight here and getting the job done in a good way. I don't want to go out there and just try and finish it and as early as I can. I want to go out there and feel good and move about and let my game flow. So that's the most important thing I'm looking for. Go out there and let my game flow. So we'll see what happens in the future.
And how surprised were you when you got the release from the UFC? Because I know a lot of people were. You weren't on a losing streak. It was a one fight losing streak. How surprised were you yourself when you got the call?
I was at the start. I was like, well, I kind of did. It took me back. And then I was chatting to Joe for a while on the phone, and then he just says go away and get some good wins and just let your game go. I feel like some of my fights I maybe never pulled the trigger as much as I should have pulled. I guess that came down to worrying about my opponent trying to take me down or something like that there. There's some crazy things that you can go through your mind during the fight game. So it was going away. I feel like this is the best thing ever to happen, really, because, I go away, get some good wins, and then you never know what happens. But yeah, it is what it is, and I feel like it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of options there for me at the moment, so we'll see what happens. But ultimately, the goal would be to go back to the UFC. But up until that, I'll focus on the fights that I got upcoming.
Well, again, just as well as much as the ACB debut as well next week, you're fighting on Cage Legacy here, where you're taking on Decky Dalton. Now, this is a fight that Decky Dalton literally went on social media and called out a lot of people, but he really, really aimed his sights on yourself. I remember at the time you basically said, look, this fight is beyond you, be careful what you wish for. But what's your thoughts? I can see there has been recently as well, there's been a lot of back and forth with yourself and Decky on social media. So is fighting again on Irish soil, are you looking forward to doing that again? And what do we think of Decky getting this fight? Technically, he's coming off a loss at Clan Wars against Gary Morris, although he was unbeaten before that. But what's your thought briefly on that fight?
Yeah, well, basically, I don't know what the young lad's problem is, to be honest. I remember during my whole time in the UFC, he would send a tweet every now and again saying, "Oh, you're lucky you never fought me that time you fought. I would have finished you, blah, 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 blah." So obviously there was a lot of envy. He was digging a lot of envy there, but it is what it is. He got a little bit jealous that, he saw where I went. I understand that because we were meant to fight away back in 2009 or something like that, but he pulled out. He was the one that pulled out, not me. So, and I just got a little bit. I was released, and then he was like tweeting stuff. I would only come back if I'm retiring again. And I saw this. Someone tagged me on it, one of his friends or something, saying you're scared to fight Decky. And then I was like, it's an easy fight. And then he obviously bit the bait. And then he was like, "Oh, sure, sign the contract and let's fight then." So I never really bothered with it for a couple of weeks. And then it came back to me again, tweets again. I was like, right, okay, I'll give him what he wants. So we'll show him what levels are. He talked about my game. He disrespected my game. And, well, fair enough if he was just saying that just to get the fight. But anyway, I was going to fight him anyway because it is an easy fight for me. I'm just going to go in there and just totally destroy him because I'm too big for him. I'm going to be bigger than him. My wrestling's way ahead of his game. My grappling's away. He's just like a basic striker in these last fights from what I've seen. So I don't really see any problem there at all. And I think I'll finish him in the second round. I want to actually, there's a lot of people travelling down from the north, so I want to actually make it a wee bit entertaining for a round and then just put him away in the second round by TKO.
Decky did have a very good performance in Bama 24. It was Bama 24. He had a great performance. It was a very dominant performance. He got the unanimous decision, but it was a very one-sided unanimous decision. If it was 30-27, it could have been a lot worse than that. So, I've watched both your careers. I've watched your fights. You've obviously reached the height of the UFC, but in some way, you have to give him a little bit of respect. He's called for this fight and he's got it. You know what I mean?
No, I don't respect him one bit. I maybe respect him as personally respect him. No, I don't at all. But as a fighter, I respect him. But the shit that he's talked about me, the way he disrespected my game, saying I'll knock you out, blah blah blah, and all this and that. He's absolutely nowhere near the level of competition I was up against. And what happened when I came up competition was just a little bit shorter. I beat them pretty easily, so I feel like I could finish him whatever way I want, to be honest. And he's talking about my striking's not good, so that's fine then. It's not like I'm going to be worrying about him trying to double leg and take me down, because there's no chance there whatsoever. So it's only striking. Striking's the only thing he's really got, so that's no problem. If he wants to stand and strike, then I'll stand and strike. I'm pretty confident if he wants to stand and keep it on the feet, then no problem. And don't be surprised if he does try and go for that shot, and it'll end up pretty bad for him there, but no, I no respect whatsoever for him as a human, as personally, but I'm going to go in there and just get the job done and put him away.
Well, again, the great equaliser is not too far down the road. You get locked in a cage together, so that is the great equaliser. Just to bring it back again to Saturday night, you're saying you were due to fight Fisher previously. So, again, is there something that you see weakness-wise that you can expose, and what would your prediction be on this one, Norman?
Andrew's a pretty solid fighter everywhere. If you watch his fights, I've watched a lot of his fights, and he's pretty solid everywhere. Decent. I believe he's moved back up to lightweight, so he's pretty decent with his striking. He's I think his ground game is his stronger part. Wrestling wise, he's reasonable in the wrestling area, so I feel like we match up pretty well. But I would love to keep it on the feet and keep a striking battle the whole time for the Glasgow fans. So I'm looking to try. Obviously, I'm looking to try and finish him. That's my ultimate goal, to try and finish him. But whatever way it comes, I'm not too sure what way it comes. I'm not going to try and sit here and predict things, because I'm just in a position mentally just to get the job done whatever way. So whatever comes natural, so be it.
Okay, so you have a fight next week, and then you have a fight in late October. So what's next for Stormin Norman Parke after that? Is it activity before the end of the year, or are you be looking at 2017 before you're back in there?
No, that'll be October. So there's November, December. There's still a couple of months left. So I'm gonna get a few more fights lined up. I'll maybe get one in mid-November or something like that. Depends what way some of the fights go, if I come out uninjured and stuff like that. But if I get the job done quick and I'm fresh after both fights, then I'll be looking to fight again around mid-November or something like that. I don't really mind where it is. We'll come up with that, whenever the opportunity comes up. And then I know Bama. I think Bama's coming to Ireland again on what? They're coming to Dublin on December, right?
Yeah, there's rumour that they're coming back in December. Yep.
Yeah, I heard something about that. So if that happens, there's an option there, maybe to fight some, big European name or something. They could maybe bring a European name across. So I'm not too sure exactly what's going to happen, but I know one thing for sure is I'm going to fight, but I'm not too sure where it is.
And would there be any?
Stay active. 4 fights by the end of the year. That's what I'm looking at.
And would there be any names, Norman, that you feel is an opponent that you want to fight to challenge your skill set against, but also as you said, the end game is to get back to the UFC. So is there anyone out there that you feel like a good victory over would push you and get you back on the speed dial of Joe Silva?
I don't know, like some ex-UFC fighters. I know Darren Cruikshank. He's fighting at that.
He won there. He won today.
So I'm not too sure if he's tied up in a contract with him. So that's a name that'll be a good fight. And then there's another lad who fights quite a bit. He's not actually a featherweight, but the really tall guy who was in the UFC he got released for violent stuff to his girlfriend or something like that. I forget his name, but he was a featherweight, real tall, like 6'4". He fought Max Holloway. Do you know his name?
Can't really think of it.
Me drawn here. Fought Max Holloway. Give me a minute.
Yeah, he's had a whole tear of fights since he got released from the UFC. He's like fighting every week. But someone tagged me and him in a post, so I would take that fight. I think he's a striker. So after these 2 fights here, I want to everything goes to plan. Then I'll be looking to fight some guys who have been released from the UFC.
And do you think that the division you're in, the lightweight division, it's pretty good in Europe at the moment? There's a lot of guys out there. Do you think? What's your thoughts on the division itself?
Yeah, there's. What you mean, AC?
Just in Europe,
or just the whole Europe?
Yeah, in Europe in general.
Oh yeah, there's. I mean, as you can see, like all these Russians who come out of nowhere. It's obviously since the Russians get signed to the UFC, it's give them more exposure. So you've seen all these lads, ACB up there. They got Russian fighters. They're all tough. They are dangerous fights for anybody. So if you're going up there to fight a Russian up there, you make sure you are prepared to everywhere. Make sure your wrestling game is on point, because most of them are coming for some sort of wrestling pedigree. And I feel that's where the toughest lads are up in Russia. So other than that, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I never really looked at the European rankings or anything like that there, but there is some decent lads floating about there for sure.
And you have spoke a lot about the wrestling, the grappling. Have you brought anybody else in to, I suppose, work on that, or what different things have you done recently? Because you have spoke a lot about improving your wrestling and your grappling.
And not just going back to it, brushing up on getting the mind sharpened to the wrestling and MMA. So that I brought, there's a couple of lads from up around London there. They come down, Waterside Sharks there. They come down, they've been helping me out for the last 5 weeks. So, and I mean, they're big, strong lads. They're like 90, 100 kgs, and they're fast and explosive young lads. So, and they're European champions. So I get real good wrestling sessions. I love a good wrestling session. It's ultimate control. I love it. So I wanted to get back there and work on that as much as I could. So I feel like it's put me in the right frame of mind to going into the fight. I mean, if you can wrestle hard for 3, 4, 5 minutes hard, I mean, you're ready for anything. Like, wrestling is a tough sport, and mentally it gets you prepared, the never quit or never die attitude. So I feel like I got that anyway. I would never quit in the fight, but just to get the grit back, and that's it. I feel like I just needed to brush up on it a little bit. Still worked on my striking as well. I feel like that's one of my games that's parts of my games that's underrated. So it depends on the lad you're fighting. So hopefully me and Andrew can keep it on the feet and put on a great fight for these Scottish lads.
Well, I'd say, Norman, I'm looking forward to seeing you back in there because, you know, you see it with a lot of young mixed martial artists. When you don't see them in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, when they come back, they just look like different animals. And just from talking to you here, you know, it just sounds like you've absolute hunger for this and the desire again, and I'm excited to see what you bring back into the cage. So I wish you the best of skill. I may be in attendance when you fight Decky Dalton here, so I look forward to seeing you live as well. But best of skill, and thank you so much for joining us fight week.
Thanks very much, lads. Cheers for that.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Norman. Good night. Cheers.